What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me your beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Brooklyn, New York, Matt Vita.
What's up?
What's up, dude?
Chilling, yeah.
Thanks for coming on. Before we get too far into anything at all, you have something super cool you want to plug, so let everyone know what's going on.
Yeah, I just, our first feature film,
Boom!
Bam! Feature just got released, Amazon Prime, Vudu, Fandango.
What's it called?
It's called Killington.
Killington, love it.
Stars Sophie Sumner, winner of America's Next Top Model. It's her breakout acting performance.
Yeah, that's right, listeners. This is a real filmmaker. This isn't a buddy who made a short, and I'm like, come on the podcast. This guy's for legit.
Yeah. So, yeah, check it out. It's a great little Halloween treat. So coming into the fall season, perfect timing. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So we actually met through a mutual friend, Liam, who I'm sure a lot of you saw that episode. I was like, hey, dude, if you have anybody who has something to promote, let me know. And he was like, actually, I have a very good friend who just released a film. And I was like, oh, that's like a big thing to promote. So before we get too far in anything, because you also do stand-up.
Yeah, I'm a stand-up, filmmaker, actor.
So the audience already knows what I'm going to ask, but I always ask this of all my guests because doing something in the arts is a very niche kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And since you just released the feature, obviously the thing I want to ask is, how did you get into filmmaking first and foremost? Was that something as a kid you were like, I want to make movies, or you kind of fell into it, or like, take us through it. How did that even happen?
Yeah, that was like a kid thing. Like, I was like a 7-year-old running around with like the VHS.
Oh,
like,
the over-the-shoulder kind of thing?
Yeah, the over-the-shoulder.
I remember those.
Yeah, so I made a horror movie when I was 6 years old, pushing friends down the stairs, like, all right, cut, let's put some ketchup on your face. So this is honestly kind of full circle. First feature, I've done a lot of short sketches, all that.
Yeah.
And this was kind of my pandemic project. It was one of those things, I'm getting a little older, and it was kind of like, dude, you've wanted to do this your whole life. You're sitting in a room smaller than this, like, make it happen now or don't fucking do it.
So did you, as the filmmaker, because this is something that's interesting to me, I've got a buddy out in LA who makes films and things like that. He also writes all the scripts and does all that. So with this film, was it soup to nuts? You did all of it, or like, did you have partners in it, or like how? Because I'm a layman to all this. Like, right. How does that work when you're sitting in your apartment during the pandemic and you go, it's time to put the feet to the fire. Like, let's get this done. What is that process?
It's different for everybody. Everyone's journey, obviously, and process is different. Definitely help. It was me, like, kind of coming to this realization, like, I'm going to do this. Lucky enough, I've got some really great support. So my partner, Mark Dazinski, he was kind of...
Shout out, Mark.
Mark Dazinski. That's what I do, Ems. I hit him up, and I was like, dude, I want to do this thing. And the thing about me is, like, oftentimes it's like, all right, do we support Vita's crazy idea this time? Or do we try to talk him off the cliff again?
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I've been there plenty of times with my friends where they're like, really? You wanna? Okay.
Yeah. And actually, one of the things we might talk about later, like one of my old roommates from college used to always say, like, Vita's fucking nuts, but just kind of listen to him because it'll probably be a good time if you go along with it.
God, that's totally. It's one of those things when you're that person, because I am that person.
Yeah.
Where people always get a little nervous, but then when they do it, they're like, hey, "It was fun though.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun though."
It's you get that. I could see it in your eye. Like you get that little fucking glimmer, and then it's like, he's got one. He's on one.
You guys want to do whatever it is? So with the film, how long does it take from when you get that inkling in your brain to be like, hey, I want to do this, and you start calling your partner, and like you start like getting things together, and you start doing all this stuff? How long is that process?
For us, it was.
You said pandemic, so that's 3 years ago.
Yeah. So for us, it was crazy because I'd say the front end was super condensed from what you would normally do.
Yeah.
But the back end turned into like a spread out.
Okay.
You know, there's words, nightmare, disaster.
Yeah.
There's so many of those fun words that you could use.
You're going to see me writing. Don't worry about it. I'm not a therapist.
Trouble.
I just, this is so I don't have to go back and listen to the entire episode to get little snippets.
Okay, cool.
So the feature film is now out. What is that feeling like? Because again, I asked this of all my guests, whether it's getting passed at a big comedy club or whether it's, one of their songs going viral online. For you, when you get a distribution deal, and I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about, but when you get that deal done,
right.
Is it like what is that feeling? Because you've been working on this for years, and then like the places it's on aren't small places.
Right. I mean, it's a roller coaster. It's like like when we got in our first film. So we basically did a run with it in film festivals for like a year. So when we got that first email that we got to a film festival, that was fuck yeah, we did it. It's over. It's fun now. And then there's all the disasters that keep coming up, and then it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
And then so it's like this, but distribution, that's huge for a first time filmmaker. There's a good amount of like, okay, we did something. It's going to live in the world. It's going to help our careers.
Because it's there now.
It's there, yeah.
And that's the thing is like people who aren't in this industry, I don't think any of them give a shit about it. But for us, it's like to get that IMDb credit, to like have that distribution, to be able to go online and like see it. I remember for me the first time because I do Google myself because I'm a narcissist. The first time I Googled my name, and it was like my one-man show was on IMDb. I was like, I did something.
No,
it's out there.
Dude, that same exact feeling. Like I was at home and I'm just like in the, whatever the girlfriend's got with the control, the smart TV, and I type in the name and then it comes up and it's on Amazon Prime and it looks good.
And you were like, that's my thing.
And it's like, that's our thing. That's it, and it's like, it took many people.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I can't take sole credit.
But I'm just talking to Matt.
But you're just talking to me, so fuck everybody else. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm just kidding. 100% you. No.
110%.
Oh, those other Mark. I'm sorry.
Because Mark was just pulling it down. I had to deduct 10.
So So you also do comedy. So are you originally from New York?
Originally from New York. Yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in this area. Well, where?
Long Island. Long Island.
Long Island. Hey, how you doing?
Okay.
I love those people. They're the best people. So growing up. Because I actually talked to Liam about this. I've talked to a few other people who grew up in Long Island where the natural move is to go from, okay, I finish high school, I go to college, and then you move to a big city. The natural inclination is to go to New York City.
Right.
Was that the same for you?
No, mine was a little different. I'm a big surfer.
Okay.
So for me, I was like, I just wanted to live by the water, by the beach. So I lived in Long Beach out on Long Island, which during like hurricane season in the winter actually gets like world-class waves. So
that's awesome.
So I live close enough that I could walk to the beach every day and surf.
Okay.
And it wasn't until I started taking comedy like seriously that I was like every day driving into the city, and eventually I was like, I didn't know if I could live in the city.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't my vibe.
Oh yeah. I grew up. I'm a Florida kid, man. I grew up like 5 miles from the beach. I totally understand that inclination to be like, yeah, it's a lot of people crammed into a lot of people.
Like I didn't like to wear shoes and shirts. I used to walk around Manhattan barefoot.
Oh god.
And look at me. I already look like a fucking hobo. So
you're just asking for directions. People are like, walk, don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look.
Well, I still got this move on the subway late at night because the subway's gotten a little gnarly these days.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the look where like if there's a motherfucker like that's trouble, I'll just kind of
tweak.
I'll start tweaking. And I've gotten out of so many circumstances where like I've like Yeah, actually.
I rely, similarly to that, but a little different. I rely on my size.
Right, yeah.
Because
yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
big guy.
No doubt.
And that was the same thing when I went, because I've been arrested quite a few times. And when I was incarcerated, it was the same kind of thing where I'm goofy and silly and kind of a big baby.
Right.
But like, because I'm so big, a lot of people are just like, I don't want the truck. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, not
That's
this
a
one.
hassle.
Yeah.
So a lot of times on the subway, like, because this just happened the other day, was I was riding on the subway and there was this guy doing the thing where he was performing.
Yeah.
But it was like a mediocre, like you're not even putting your heart into it. Like he was doing like one of these.
Right,
And that
like,
was
like
it.
The, like
and
the
then,
fucking Macarena.
Yeah, and then like asking for money.
Yeah.
And he came up to me and I was like, sorry, man. And he was like, what? And I said, I got nothing for you. And he was just like, okay. And he walked away. The next person that said no to him, he like got in their face. And I was like, oh, yeah, obvious. Like,
right.
Yeah, he didn't want to. So you just do the. Like,
I do the crazy. You know, I just took a shower. I want it to be prim and proper.
Yeah, of course,
for you.
I appreciate
but
it.
if the hair, you know, if I just did 3 spots and I'm looking, you know, like Charles Manson, it's pretty easy to get people to just keep on walking.
Just keep on moving, man. So what drew you into stand-up? Because you said you've been making movies, like, you know, aspiring to do film since you were 6. Like, at least in your head, you like had that idea. What drew you to stand-up? Drew you to stand-up, excuse me.
So I've been kind of performing my whole life.
Yeah.
So I've been like, you know, when I was 13, 14, I was in like punk rock bands, ska bands.
Oh, hell yeah.
I used to be like an MC. I mean, I still am. I still rap, believe
Yeah.
it or not. So I used to do.
It all makes sense now. The Liam connection makes so much sense.
Yeah. Me and Liam, like, we've become fast friends because
Yeah.
you know, we're cut from the same cloth.
Oh yeah, he used to rap too, man.
Yeah, we got one. We're dropping one actually. We've been doing some raps together. I was actually texting him while I was driving over. We're shooting some videos next week.
That is awesome because he sent me a bunch of pictures to use for the cover art, and then as a goof, he sent me one of him rapping, and I was like, I'm using this one. Obviously,
I saw it.
I'm
It was
using.
that was shit,
like,
yeah.
why would you even? And then I sent it to him, and he was like, "Oh man, you used that picture." I go, "Yeah. What did you think was gonna happen?"
Yeah. Oh man.
So you got in. Because you've got a lot going on between filmmaking, comedy, music. And so you were just always performing.
Always performing. So I used to do shit like back when I was 13, 14, where like, I mean, I did a lot of different performative things. Like I was playing in punk rock bands, but I used to like do like funny raps. Like I've had some friends that were in like bigger bands.
Yeah.
That like in between sets, like the drummer would just kind of play a beat, or sometimes I even had this little beat machine. I would go up and do funny raps in between. So I used to do shit back then that like now that I do comedy professionally, I was like, oh, I was doing comedy.
Yeah.
I just didn't call it that. I called it, oh fuck, Vita's gonna rap before the set, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting thing because stand-up is so, like, you're just getting on stage with a microphone, like eliciting a reaction from people using your words. So, like, I've had guests on where they're like, yeah, I was hosting a show and was making people laugh. And I was like, yeah, that's doing stand-up. That's not, whatever you want to call it, that's doing stand-up. So you were doing stand-up this whole time.
Yeah, and then like even like a little later, like before I was officially doing stand-up, I used to like, because I played in punk rock, but I played guitar too. So like I used to do like improvised things. Like up actually in Harlem, I used to do this like weekly show where I'd basically bring a guitar and everyone else is like doing like written songs, and I was just fucking with the audience. And
so you're
like
just doing crowd work with the guitar.
Yeah, crowd work with the guitar. And it's like yeah, that was comedy too, you moron.
Yeah. So when did you officially, like, how old were you when you were like, oh, I'm gonna like go to open mics and do stand-up?
So I've been doing stand-up now for about 10 years.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, about 10 years now.
So what was the driving force to get you to do that? Because that's definitely a thing where it's like, you mentioned like being on stage, doing all these performances. What was the thing where you go, okay, I'm not going to go to music, I'm not going to do film, like I'm going to go to a place to do comedy?
So there's this awesome thing. Some of us have experienced it. Some of us have. It's called deep depression.
Oh yeah.
It was, it was feeling stuck. You know, it was like
Yeah.
it was just kind of feeling stuck. You know, a lot of shit going on in my life at that point.
Yeah.
And then I guess the one thing about stand-up, which is great, it's still collaborative in certain respects, but stand-up, it's like it's you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I've
my
played in
favorite
bands my
part,
whole
yeah.
life, so obviously it's like I've had a lot of fun playing in bands, but it's like you can only push and pull so hard.
Yeah.
With stand up, and there's so many things obviously as you know that work against us, but it's like it's still you screaming at the wall. You know?
Yeah. I've got buddies who are in bands. A couple of them have been on the show, and I'll go to their shows, and I'm like, man, this is like cheating, dude.
Right.
It's like you got music, and people don't even have to be listening, and you're just up there playing. Like, you don't give a shit what's going on. You're just playing the song. I was like, if I went to a show and like people were talking and like not listening, and I was like still just doing the bit, I'd want to die.
Oh yeah.
But with musicians, they're like, nah, man, it's just the music, man. It's just and I'm like, fuck off, dude. That's so easy. I mean, it's hard, but it's a different kind of hard where, like, with stand-up, like you said, it's like, it's just you by yourself up there, and you're like, Hey guys,
Hey,
what's up? So how long were you doing stand up to where it became like a thing where you were like, oh, I want to keep doing this too?
I feel like it's went in different like notches.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you do it a couple years and you start to think you're good, and then you look back and you realize like no, like you weren't. And then it's like, you know, I started doing longer sets. You know, I've been doing it full time for about 2 years now.
Oh, that's awesome. Congrats, man.
Thank you. But I mean, it's
That's the dream.
But it's like a little bit of everything. You know,
Yeah.
it's because like obviously I do a little producing, I do some acting, I do, you know, it's kind of like I'm trying to survive with every single way I could find a nickel and fit it into a slot. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's that's the thing is, I tell people all the time, if I could subsidize my income just by doing like podcasting and comedy and producing stuff, like I would do a million jobs that were in this realm.
Yeah.
Just to get out of doing my one job I'm very good at that pays all my bills. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. That's the plunge I took 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And like I've been saying the last couple of weeks, stand-up's been going so good that I just started hosting trivia once a week. So
Yeah. That took me a second. I was a little bit behind. I do that to because I work in a restaurant. It's a swanky steakhouse. I do that to my guests all the time, where I'll have regulars come in and they'll bring their friends. I'll be like, this is Brennan. He's a hilarious comedian. That's why he moved to New York. And they're like, how's it going? And I go, it's 7 o'clock on a Friday and I'm here waiting on you. How do you think it's going?
right. Yeah.
Like I'm here. So not awesome.
Not great.
When you decided to take that plunge 2 years ago, did you have like a safety net, or were you just like, I'm going to bet on myself? I've been doing that the whole time. Like, let's just do it.
I saved up a bit of money.
Okay.
So I got a little bit of a safety net. So if I need to, I could dip into it.
Because that's the thing is, like, I've met people where they've worked like regular 9-to-5 jobs, but they were really good at it, or it was a really well-paying job. So they just saved and saved and saved. Like one of my buddies moved to New York, and he was like, yeah, I didn't work for like the first year. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, oh, I just saved. And I was like, how? What? I didn't even think that amount of money existed for people like me.
I didn't have that much.
But what I'm saying is, like, you at least were smart enough, because we also know so many people who are like, oh, no, I got like 3 weekends in a row featuring, so now I can quit my job. And it's like, no. That's not how that works, man.
No.
So you were smart enough to be like, all right, I'm going to get a little bit of a cushion, and then I'm going to get out of this.
Yes, I got a cushion, which basically is about, I bought myself a year.
Yeah.
And now I'm 2 years in, and I was, you know, I still got
yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, on good months now, I'm not dipping in at all.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the dream.
Yeah,
So let's talk about some of the stories, because you sent me a few, and a lot of them are very interesting as far as the listeners know this, and you know this now. I asked all my guests for like just 1 or 2 words, and some of these words were weird to put together. But you said earlier, you're that guy. You're the guy who's like, let's party. So how old were you when you first started drinking?
Young.
Okay.
Young teen.
Yeah.
14,
okay.
13,
yeah, that's
14.
normally around
13,
the age.
14.
Were you, so obviously you're like, you know, just getting into high school. Were you one of the popular kids in high school, or were you more of like a loner?
I would say I was the Robin Hood.
Okay.
In a certain sense, because I was kind of like all punk rock skater dudes. I was kind of friends with all the punk rock skater guys, and I was also really smart, believe it or not. So I was in like advanced classes. So I was kind of friendly.
I believe it. You just put together a feature film. Like obviously there's a lot of people involved, but you got to be pretty smart to do that.
And then, like, you know, my school was like very like Guido centric, and I was friends with some of the Guidos, but the ones that were like really kind of
hey man, how you doing? Huh?
I would like try to bully the bullies. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So there's certain people that definitely didn't like me, but I was pretty friendly.
So you
with a good swath of people.
Okay, so you were basically kind of tertiary friends with a lot of different people, and closer with some.
Yeah, I would say that's a good way to put it. Tertiary friends with a lot of people. My core group was kind of like the punk rockers, skaters.
Okay, and so I want to ask you this, because I have found this where I grew up. A lot of the skaters and punk rock kids were straight edge. Was that the same here up in Long Island, or was it different?
It was a mix.
Okay.
You know, like in 7th grade, I had an X on my hand just because, like, that was fashionable for a day. You know what I'm saying? So like, then there was like a bifurcation where it was like, oh shit, you drink a beer, like you could probably kiss a girl. I'm like, those X's turn into O's real quick, dog.
That's the name of the episode. X's turned into O's. Dude, that's a great way to put it. Because I was always like, and the listeners know this, I was always like, drinking's poison, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
because I just grew up around people who drank a lot, like my ex-stepdad and stuff, and I've talked about it. But when I finally drank, I was like, this is awesome.
Right.
I'm not anxious anymore. This is the greatest.
Yeah.
So for you, I mean, like you said, a younger teen, were you partying a lot throughout high school, or were you like doing it on occasion, or how was that going?
I'd say I've consistently partied.
Yeah.
Never got into drugs. I've never touched coke once in my life.
Love it.
But I've always loved to drink and party.
Yeah.
These days I still drink, but like, you know, I have a couple beers. Like I don't do what I did in my 20s.
We're getting older. Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
It is a weird thing too, because I've been sober for 6 years, but it is.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But it is fascinating to me working at a restaurant and like just being at bars and clubs and stuff where I'll see people, they'll order one beer and like take a couple sips, take a couple more sips, and then the show's over and they're like, all right, thanks. I'm like, you still have half a beer. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Like that always blows my mind. But to your point, it's like once you get older, it's kind of like, yeah, what? I'm not going to get hammered on a Tuesday.
Right.
But for me, I was always like, yeah, that's, of course you're going to get hammered on a Tuesday. Like, why wouldn't you get hammered on a Tuesday?
Right. It's a Tuesday.
It's important. It's the most important day of the week. So for you, I want to get into some of these stories. The first one I want to ask you about is the Roller Kingdom Kegger.
The Roller Kingdom Kegger. RKK.
So how old are you when this happened?
So this was a college venture.
Okay, so before we get into it, let's talk about going to college.
Yep.
Because as someone who grew up around, all my siblings were popular in high school. And then when they got to college, obviously, they were all still popular. So for you, because you were, popular, for lack of a better term, where did you decide to go to college? And when you got there, was it like with a bunch of friends, or did you go solo, or like how did that work out?
So I flipped a coin.
Okay.
For college.
Of course you did. The Met beat away, baby.
Flipped a coin for that. Well, I applied to 3 colleges. One was Flagler in Florida.
Okay, I know Flagler College.
Because I heard the waves were sick.
Yeah.
And the deal I had with my parents, if I got a full ride, I was going to be able to go there. And I was like, there was this contest. I was like in the running top 10. Didn't get that.
What was the contest for?
It was not a contest, probably the wrong word. It was like each year they select one person to get a full ride.
Yeah.
But I guess that they do a sub pool of like 10 people. Where it's like, oh, like you're one of the 10. Then like there was other like essays and stuff like that.
Understood.
And then I didn't.
So you were competing for a full ride there.
For a full 4-year ride.
Okay.
And then my mom was like, it's far flights.
Well, and it's a private school, so it's also super expensive.
Yeah,
so if you don't get a full ride, it's like, we
didn't really have the dollars and cents
I'm all right. I'm
to
not
do
going.
it.
So what were the 2 other colleges?
NYU and BU.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what happened? Like, because you said you were a good student, so you weren't worried about getting accepted or anything like that?
No, I mean, honestly, like, God bless my mom. Like, I was like so lackadaisical. I was just like, she's like, you got to apply to college. I'm kind of like,
I was the same way. But I have friends, because I was an IB, and it's a real competitive like high school program, and I have friends who applied to like 9 different, like they're all crazy, like Yale, Harvard, Princeton, but they applied to like 9 of them, and I applied to like 7, maybe 5.
Right.
And I was just like, all right, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, I was the same way. Because I'm American, because I was in that track. Everyone's like, here's the safety. Here's the reach. And my mom's like, you got to do something. And I'm like, all right, which ones you think?
That's so funny to see all your friends being like, so I've got these schools. And it looks like, one of those detective whiteboards. And they're like, safety school, reach school. This is the school I want to go to. And you were just like, I guess I'll apply to this one.
Well, I was a carny bat. I was like living the dream. Like back then, I used to work for this guy. I would bring like moon bounces to like block parties and stuff.
You worked for basically a carnival.
For a carnival. And it was sick because I would just throw my surfboards on top of the moon bounces. Like in between gigs, I'd go fucking surf. I'd never pay for the beach. I had scams to get in the beach for free every day.
Dude. And you're just doing this in the summers up here in New York?
Yeah, and I'm partying.
Hell yeah.
I
wouldn't want to go to school either.
Well, so I'm like,
thanks, but no thanks, Ma.
Like, I'm sure there's fun to be had there too, but I wasn't too like.
Well, and also the lifestyle you're describing, I see it obviously being a Florida boy. I've seen it my whole life. The lifestyle you're describing is one that's not conducive to college.
Right.
It's very much like a, young, wild, and free. Like I'm doing my thing. I'm making enough money to pay rent or whatever bills you have. Where it's like, I don't want to be confined to a classroom 8 hours a day. That sounds miserable.
Yeah.
So when you decide to apply to schools and you flip the coin, where did you end up going?
BU.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you end up going to BU. Are you excited about it?
No, I'm stuck. Yeah, I was stuck. I was stuck. Yeah.
In my head, just from the little we've been talking, in my head, I thought you'd be like,
No. I mean, I've always had a zest for life, you know. So it's kind of like, oh, cool, new thing.
Experience.
Yeah. I just like I needed to kick my ass to like get to that point. But once it was like, oh, you're doing this thing, like sick. I'm gonna go live in another city. this is gonna be great.
Yeah. So when you get to be you, are you just like letting it rip? Are you like, hey, just meeting people, talk? Because you're a very jovial guy. Like when you walked in, I was like, hey, you're like, hey, man. So like, were you just like off rip, just like, hey, how's everybody doing? Were you living in the dorms?
Yeah, I was living in the dorms.
Okay.
Made a lot of good friends.
Hell yeah.
And then I actually, so like the first couple of weeks I was there, I was partying so hard that I actually got sick and I had to withdraw from my first semester.
Oh, for real?
Well, I got mono. And probably in conjunction with just like drinking, that was probably the
Your
heaviest
immune
I've ever drank.
systems, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was just, God, if I wasn't drinking 20 beers, I wasn't drinking one,
So when I assume right when you get there, you were just like, let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, dude. That's awesome.
And then like my floor freshman year, like so, 3 of those people I'm still good friends with to this day.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, really awesome people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you get sick, you end up having to withdraw. So we're all caught up chronologically.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Roller Kingdom Kegger.
So Roller Kingdom Kegger, one of those 3 people that I met freshman year on
Yeah.
the floor. We started living together sophomore year.
Okay. So you only stayed on campus that 1 year, or you guys were living together on campus?
I got off campus as soon as I could. So,
okay.
I withdrew first semester. Second semester, I got put back into like kind of like it was still campus, but it was like more of an apartment style.
Yeah.
And then by the next semester, I got out.
Yeah, that was when I first got to school because I came during the summer, not at the beginning. They had the same rule that most universities do, where if you are a freshman, you have to live on campus in the dorms.
For at least a year, yeah.
But because I missed the first 2 semesters and came in the summer, they're like, I mean, I guess technically you can stay in the student apartments if you want.
Right, yeah.
So that's where I stayed. And I actually enjoyed that more than living off campus because you're just surrounded by like friends all the time.
Yeah.
Like when I moved off campus, I was kind of like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's
But you were living with a friend. I was living with strangers, so that's different.
Yeah, that's different. But still, there's more like in the dorms. There is more. For me, it was like I didn't love the police state vibe of it.
Yeah,
but the social
that's
aspect
true.
of it was pretty cool.
And it's a weird kind of in between because it's like, yeah, you're around all your friends, but then also there's a lot more rules.
Well, yeah.
So it's like, what would you rather have?
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, you had to like sign people in.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Yeah, so it's just like
I'm doing the rose-colored glasses thing where I was like, living on campus was awesome. It's also like, yeah, but the RA used to come and bang on the door if we were playing video games too loud at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, shit like
what
that.
the fuck is this?
Yeah.
So you move off campus. With one of your best buds.
Yeah, my bud Aaron.
And so
shout out Aaron.
Shout out Aaron.
I do the letters.
I see. Yeah, you do Mark, Aaron.
Mark, Aaron.
Hopefully
Liam.
no one cuts this out of context and they're like throwing up gang signs, man.
Maybe I am.
2 white guys just like
the MAL.
sure.
The Mel Gang.
The Mao gang. So it does mean bad in Spanish. So what's up now?
Muy mal. Muy malo.
Muy mal. So what happens? Is this at a roller rink?
It is. Yes. I guess actually you said maybe this would happen. So me and my buddy Aaron, we love throwing parties.
Yeah.
So like one party that I didn't put on the list, but it was just like one of the most epic parties we ever threw.
This is off campus?
This is off campus in the same apartment that we lived in for 2 years.
Got it.
It was the biggest blizzard that's happened in like the last 15 years in Boston.
Yeah.
This is just happenstance. We had an idea to throw a beach party. So we went to Home Depot, got a 30 by 30 tarp.
I already know what you're doing.
And then we went to a beach.
I've seen old school. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. We went to a beach and
Sand, wall to wall.
sand wall. So we went to this beach. We had this other buddy who was like, dude, I know where you can get sand. And we went to this beach and it was all rock. And now the snow's coming down. So we went back to Home Depot. We bought 2,000 pounds of sand.
Oh my God! So you just bought straight sand.
Straight 2,000 pounds.
And that's good. That's clean sand. You like that's good sand. You don't want to get beach sand. There's sand fleas and stuff.
Yeah. So we put a 30 by 30 tarp and we put 2,000 pounds of sand. It was about a foot deep of sand. We threw a beach party, which was epic.
Please tell me you turned like the heat up and everyone's wearing like swimsuits and stuff.
Dude, everyone's swimsuited out.
Yes.
Yeah.
YES. Yes.
I remember one of my buddies like wound up hooking up with this chick that shows up like he's missing, like shows up the next day. He left in sandals. There's literally 3 feet of fucking snow in Boston. He's in a swim trunk and like one sandal. Comes back with like fucking frostbite.
Oh my God, that's insane. Because once you go outside, you're in the elements.
You're in a blizzard. And the craziest part, the funniest part, and crazy part of that story, I think, is not the actual party, but then we had 2,000 pounds of sand in the apartment.
How did you get rid of 2,000 pounds of sand?
My friend. So we didn't know what to do. So what we did, like all problems, is like, how can we cautiously ignore this? So we shoveled it all to one half of the apartment. So now we had 4 feet of sand, and we just folded the tarp over it. And then over time, we're like, dude, we got to get rid of this. So we started getting like solo cups and buckets, and anyone that left our apartment, we'd say, take a cup of sand and just dump it. So over the course of a couple of months, the backyard of our apartment complex now was starting to sprout up with like piles of sand. So there was a couple of times that like we almost got fucking snagged by campus police because like if they like one time they saw me with a bucket and they're like, that's the motherfucker that's dumping sand.
Sand everywhere, yeah.
Yeah, so there's 1 or 2 times I literally had to run because I dumped the sand and then it was like, woo, and I'm like, out.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're the sand bandit.
The Sandman.
The Sandman. So what ends up happening? So you love throwing parties.
Love
you
throwing
are
parties.
Van Wilder. You just love throwing parties. So what happens with the roller one?
Okay, so just to give you context of how me and Aaron were operating. So one morning I woke up, like I said, big surfer.
You guys full to the limit.
To the limit.
Yeah.
Beyond it.
Beyond. Wait, it's over there.
Woo! It's over in Ridgewood, the limit. Monday night trivia, Ridgewood, Willow's Tavern.
Oh yeah, check it out.
Plug, Willow's. So, big surfer. I woke up one morning. A lot of weekends I would go drive to like New Hampshire to go surf.
Yeah.
Because in the winter the surf's actually really sick out there. But
Are you wetsuiting up on this?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
gotta be freezing.
Yeah, full 5'4" hood, gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole deal. But long story short, like one Saturday I woke up early, like didn't party too hard the night before because I was planning on surfing. So I was like up early, which wasn't common in those days.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, the surf forecast was off, no surf. But I was like, up, energy, like you could kind of get my. I want to do something.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, what do we do? I don't know how I got the idea, but it was like, oh, let's go to a roller skating rink. So we got like a little crew of people together.
Like 21 years old, just showing up.
Like 18, 19 maybe at that point. And we went to this roller rink. It was like a Saturday. And we just like dressed in like crazy costumes.
Yeah.
And we were fucking skating around. And I guess who I didn't realize at the time was the owner of the place, like came over and he's like, cause like we were making a scene.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, you guys, like, what's up with you guys? We're like, I'm just having fun. And then like I'm skating around the ring. He stops me again. He's like, do you guys want to like come back and throw a party here? And I'm like, I look around, I'm like, no. And then I skated around again and I stopped and I was like, wait, can we bring beer? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yes, we do want to come here and throw a party.
Damn. So the owner of the roller rink was like soliciting you guys to like do an event.
Yeah, because he could probably just smell the vibe. He's
Yeah.
like,
You're in costumes.
we're in costume. Yeah.
So what ends up happening? Did you end up like same day? You just call everybody up and you're like, hey, let's go, or what happens?
No, so we planned it. So it wound up being. We wound up running this party for 5 years.
What?
Yeah. So the first year was kind of humble beginnings, maybe about 150 people, but we used to sell tickets. It got up to several hundred people.
Get out of town.
Yeah, we used to get 17 kegs. We got sponsored by PBR for a couple of years.
What the hell just happened?
Yeah, and then we were making money. No doubt, we were making money.
So this went from showing up one day because the surf report was off that you were just like, let's go do this, to now this is like a staple in Boston.
A staple, yeah, to the point where, so we did it 3 years, then I graduated, and I caught wind back at my desk in New York that an underclassman was going to throw the party. I said, no, you're not throwing my fucking party.
This is my party.
Yeah, it's my party. So I went back 2 years as, graduated, just as like a business venture. We threw the Roller Kingdom Kegger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do they don't still do it? Do they still do it?
No, because the last year, at this point, we're coming up to,
Look at this, full circle, everybody.
the last year that the party existed, and we were smart. I had my friend who was a lawyer draw up some waivers and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I know the risks.
Yeah.
I know what we're doing here. But so this is probably the 5th year we did the party.
So you're in New York. You're coming back down to do the party.
Yeah, I'm coming up just for the week. Throw
Or
the party.
up,
Yeah. I'll
Geography. What's
down,
that?
up, left. Depends which way the globe is.
Everything's up for me. I'm from Florida.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that year, you're starting to get like a little. I don't have an ego, but like you're feeling like you're vibing. So it's kind of like we've created this thing. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm just like getting a little too wacky. So I'm kind of like, all right, I don't know. So I brought a pink thong. I was like, all right.
As you're wont to do.
Yeah, it's year 5. It's pink thong year, right?
Yeah, right? It's paper, then wood, then pink thong.
Paper, then wood, then pink thong. Yeah, and hopefully, mix and match. Wood and a pink thong would be nice.
Oh,
Edit it out.
comedy.
Wood. So I'm with Aaron, my co-conspirator on this, and I'm like, I was like, I'm gonna do a fucking thong lap. This is gonna be sick. And actually, I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a thong lap. Actually, no, I think I told him I was gonna do a naked lap. And he's like, do a thong lap first.
Yeah, let's test it out.
Test the water. Yeah. And I got about 3/4 of the way around the rink in the thong lap, and I fucking went to cut this guy off a little too tight. fucking got clipped. Boom, shattered my arm.
Oh my God.
Very intensely. To the point where like my girlfriend at the time came over. Like I got up, the arm stayed on the rink.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And are you hammered at this point?
Oh God, yes.
So okay, so at least you had a little bit of like a numbing agent in your body.
A bit of one, yeah. But that was an intense.
But did you feel it like throbbing? Like
it was real bad, yeah.
Yeah.
And like thank God I was weird thing to say. Thank God I was as drunk as I was. But yeah, oh my God, yeah, it was bad.
So what ends up happening? Do you shut the whole party down, or do you just go to the hospital? Like what's Aaron doing? What's your girlfriend at the time doing? Like what happened?
It was kind of like production mode where okay, Vita needs to get to the hospital.
Yeah.
Little entourage. So it was like me, one of my best friends,
In a pink thong.
Yeah. So we all rushed to the hospital.
Shirt on? No shirt.
No, at this point, I think I told my girlfriend, I was like, get me sweatpants.
Okay.
So I think I'm,
Damn it, that would have been hilarious if you showed up in a pink thong to the hospital.
Well, we show up at the hospital. My one of my buddies, one of my best friends, Jay, is there. He's a big gentleman like you, big, tall dude. He's in skin tight tennis ball pants. He's showing the whole.
I could just imagine the crew that walks in with you in the hospital is like, the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, so we walk in around the same time that a wedding walked in. So it's like
really.
So it's all the because it was like a 70s theme party. So we all walk in, 70s out. Then a wedding comes in. Everyone's all fucking fucked up.
God. So what ends up happening? Did you have to get surgery?
No, they said it, and it was one of those things where it's like, no, it was just like a miserable.
Yeah. How long did it take to heal up?
A while.
Yeah, that's gonna take a couple months.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So that was the end of the kegger.
Yeah. So that we were like, okay.
Did you decide after that? Were you like, we're not doing this anymore? Or were you and Aaron kind of like, yeah, let's just forget about it? Or
I think I forget if we ever had an official discussion but I think it was,
those little details always fascinate me. Like, how does it actually end?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just kind of unsaid.
Everyone kind of was just like, yeah, we got it.
We're good. Yeah, we got that one.
It's over.
It's done.
So you did send me a story about getting in trouble with the police. You got a ticket for the back of the truck thing. What was that about? Was that also in college?
No, that was after college.
Okay.
Yeah, that was. So I played in bands, after college too. So I played in this punk rock band, the Shipwrecks. Shout out
Shipwrecks. Got it.
And we used to play a lot of shows in the Rockaways.
Okay.
So we were playing a gig in the Rockaways one night, and my buddy Captain Wiggles was driving.
Of course you was.
And me and my best friend Squirrel Master was there. And
what is your life, man?
And he's not in the band. He's just like a homie.
Yeah,
like
he's the Squirrel Master.
Yeah, shout out Squirrel Master.
What is happening?
And for whatever reason, we were
off the rails, everybody.
Been off.
I don't even think we were ever on them.
No.
So what happens with Squirrel Master?
So whatever reason, Wiggles drives a big pickup truck.
Of course.
And we're headed back to Long Beach. We were living in Long Beach.
All the equipment's in the back.
All the equipment's in the back. There was room in the cab, but for whatever reason, me and Squirrel Master were like, dude, we want to be in the back together and drink a beer.
Yeah.
So we're in the back of the cab. And the thing was like Rockaway, I mean, this is probably 10 years ago. But there's still with parts of Rockaway that look pretty rough and tumble.
Yeah.
Like gun checks.
Yeah.
So we got stopped for a gun check.
Really?
Yeah. So because I think there had just been a shooting or whatever reason there were checkpoints, and we kind of knew about this, but whatever, we weren't thinking.
Yeah.
So we got checked, and the fucking cop got spooked. Because all of a sudden there's movement in the back.
Oh, so because you pull up to the checkpoint, so he doesn't see you guys.
Yeah. So me and Squirrel Master are just like in the back. Like,
are you trying to hide?
Yeah, we're kind of like ducking behind a snare drum, like trying to whatever. And then Captain Wiggles wound up getting a ticket, and there was the funniest thing because the citation was 2 men in back of truck. $75.
That's the name of the next movie. I think I've seen that documentary before. Hey-o.
Ooh.
2 men in the back of a truck.
Yeah.
So were you guys, because I'm assuming you did bands all through college as well.
Yeah, I play, yeah.
Was it a different vibe doing music in Boston than it was in New York, or is it kind of like all the same?
It was different in the sense of like in Boston, I was kind of just doing it more low key.
Okay.
I wasn't playing out as much.
Yeah, because there is a huge significance between like doing stand-up in New York City versus doing it in other parts of New York versus doing it in other parts of the country.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if that was the same for music, obviously music is also subjective, but I didn't know if it was one of those things where it's like, all right, well, now I'm in this part of the country, so I have to play like these kind of songs or something.
Yeah, I mean, there was a vibrant scene, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I was kind of more just like not in the scene for music at that point.
Okay. But when you got back to New York, you were like, let's start it up again? Somebody called Squirrel Master.
No, it's like once again,
Captain
like all the great impetuses in my life, I feel like sprung out of depression.
Yeah.
So in my early 20s, I was just in a really depressive state, and it was like, what am I missing in my life? And it was creativity.
Yeah.
So then that was actually when I was like, dude, I need to like get it out. So I started writing, and then I put together this band.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I've been there a few times where it's like stand up mostly. Like when I got sober 6 years ago, because I had tried to get sober a bunch of times, and when I got sober 6 years ago, I was like, oh, this sucks. Like I'm just going to meetings every day, like just going to the gym and working 2 jobs. I was like, I don't like this at all. And then I got back into stand up because I had taken a break for a few years, and I was like, oh yeah, I found something I care about and that I want to create. Like this is awesome. Yeah. So for you, it had a lot to do with music.
Yeah, at that point. Yeah, that was, it was kind of like at the tail end of a relationship that was kind of not great at that point.
Write some songs about it, baby.
Yeah. Well, we started a surf rock band. I mean, you kind of get my vibe. It's like a party band.
Yeah.
We're called the Shipwrecks. The way we came up with the name is like we're like a seafaring train wreck.
Love it. I love it. Honestly, that's if someone was like, "Hey, the Shipwrecks are playing down the street at Sanford tonight," I'd be like, "Yeah, let's fucking go, dude." What was the band vibe? Like, what was the musical styling? Sublime, 311. We talking Blink 182? We talking like super pop punk?
It was like a hodgepodge. Like when we started, we were like, let's start a surf rock band.
Yeah.
But everyone in the band had played punk rock.
Yeah.
So then very quickly we started doing some punk rock.
Yeah.
Then we did some reggae. Then we did some Sublime covers just so you could get paid to play at the
you
bar.
got it, yeah.
So it was like just this hodgepodge. I would say that the through line was like just like kind of party vibes.
Okay.
And like once again, you go to a Shipwreck show, me and Captain Wiggles were fucking, we're
Was Captain Wiggles the captain of the crew?
He was the captain of the crew, no doubt.
Yeah, he was.
But we're doing what's probably stand up. Like you'd kind of half go to a Shipwreck show, not just for like the songs, but also for all the crazy.
It's
funny
entertainment.
Shit.
Yeah,
it's a show. It was a show.
So let's talk about it since we're talking about shows. The Krill.
The Krills. I forgot the Z.
Krills.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. What was this about?
That was a punk rock band that I played in when I was like 13, 14.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was this one of the first ones?
One of the first ones, yeah.
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 What happened with this? Because you sent me a story about this that I'm very interested in.
Well, I played one show. The most epic show that I think was we played a show actually with Against Me, like before they were big.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It was like back.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was sick. It was like when they were just coming up.
Yeah.
They left. I don't think they even watched us. But I was personally so drunk that like I was basically laying on the floor, essentially sleeping, and got big props because I didn't miss one note. Apparently,
What do you do in the Krills? Are you singing guitar?
The Krills, I played the bass and sang.
So you were just blacked out playing the bass.
Riffing, jumping around, going nuts. Yeah.
You don't remember it at all?
I do. I remember. It's like brownout maybe.
Yeah.
It was in the orange zone.
That's like, I mean, as someone who, when I first started doing stand-up in 2009, I was drunk all the time, so I completely understand that mindset of like, I crushed, I think.
Right. Well, people told me after.
Yeah.
Like my buddy Tim, God bless Tim, shout out Tim. Fuck yeah. He's like, dude, you fucking rap, But like we were nuts. We used to like throw things around and like break stuff and like.
Would you guys, this is interesting to me, would you, at 14, 15 years old, are you guys like wearing a band, we're drinking before the show? Or was it just one of those things where you just happened to have like a couple of beers? Or was it like a collective, like, let's do this?
No, we were ripping.
Yeah.
Like we were showing up to gigs with guitar cases filled with beer cans.
Hell yeah.
And borrowing guitars from other bands.
I asked that because it's comedy. It's such a, like you said, it is somewhat collaborative, but it is a very solo sport.
Right.
So like with comedy, it's one of those things where it's like, either you're going to get hammered kind of by yourself and show up to the show, or you're not.
Yeah.
So as a band, I think that's so awesome because you're just together. Like you're just like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, because that was the vibe. And it's like now, like, I do stand up every night of the week. Like I never drink before I do stand up. Like I take it very seriously. So it's like I like to have a beer after.
Have you ever gotten drunk on stage before?
Oh,
have you
of
ever
course.
gone on stage?
I have. Yeah. Like I when I started, I was doing a lot of improv. I still do it here and there. I still coach improv and stuff like that. Improv, whatever. And if
that's my feelings exactly.
And if I'm hosting, like I'll have a beer, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
like I take it too seriously, and it's too precious to me now to like.
No, I can.
Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir on that one. I tell everybody, I'm like, whenever someone gets on stage and they're like, I'm so fucked up, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I'm like, then get off.
Yeah,
Like, I
It's
get so wound up about that. But early in your like starting comedy and stuff like that, do you have like a recollection of like a time where maybe you weren't taking it as seriously and you got hammered and you're like, oh, I'm not doing that again? Or was it always just like, no, I'm not going to do that?
Yeah, no, early on for sure.
Yeah.
Like I got one time I was doing a show at the old Pit.
Okay.
On where is it? The downtown location.
Okay.
And it was a Saturday night show, and I was a little tuned up that
Yeah.
night. And I remember, this is not funny at all, but I thought it was funny in the moment. I just watched Miss Maisel had just coming out.
Yeah.
And remember, I don't know if you watched Miss Maisel. There was
Oh, yeah, I love it.
remember, like she takes her breasts out, right?
Yeah.
Cool scene.
Great scene.
Great scene.
Love that
Good
scene.
writing.
Great writing.
Great writing in that scene. I had like just watched that scene before I went out, and then like got drunk, and then did this spot, and then I had this idea. I was like, "Are you guys want to see an impersonation of a housewife becoming a famous comedian in the '50s?" And I just took my shirt off, and there was one or two people in the audience that thought it was hilarious, and then 25 that thought I was a moron. I looking backside with the 25.
Side with the majority on that one.
Yeah.
I used to, when I first started, I would get drunk, and growing up, I was always good at impressions. Like I can manipulate my voice, and I don't do them on stage, obviously now anymore. But when I was a kid, that used to be my thing. So when I first started doing stand-up, you go to what you know.
Yeah.
So I would write like this horrific material trying to be like a shock jock guy, and then I would do impressions.
Okay.
Like that was my only two zones. Trying to be like a hardcore, like talking about like rape and assault and all this kind of stuff, like trying to make it like, oh, I'm crazy.
Right.
I wasn't making it's not fun. It wasn't funny because
Right.
I wasn't making it funny.
Yeah.
I just was trying to shock people.
Yeah.
And then impressions.
Right.
And I used to get so drunk that if I would bomb, which I would always do with the first stuff,
Yeah.
I would just do like an Arnold impression and run the and just run the light. Like they'd be like, get off the stage. And I'd be like, "Yeah, what are we doing? Who are you? What are you up to? And they would like try to get me off the stage. And now, like, similarly to what you're saying, in the present moment, I was like, oh, this is hilarious.
Right.
I'm the crazy guy. But in hindsight, I'm like, you jerk.
Yeah.
You guys want to see an impression of a 50s housewife doing comedy and just rip your shirt off?
Yeah.
Ba-dum-ba-dum-bum.
Maybe it wasn't good casting for that bit.
I love how you go, great writing, and then you told your version. It's like, man, could have used a touch-up maybe a little punch-up.
Maybe it was casting. Maybe it wasn't the writing.
Oh, man. I love that show.
She's a great actress.
Lenny Bruce is like one of my favorites. So
Oh, hell yeah.
the depiction of Lenny Bruce in that show is actually pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Because I've read his autobiography like 5 times.
Right.
And it's so cool to watch him in that show because he encompasses so much of Lenny Bruce in that character.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like, I feel like I'm watching the guy.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the highlights.
Yeah.
I actually never finished the last season. I felt like it kind of fell off.
It's an interesting thing. The last season they do, it's not a spoiler, but they do this thing where they like jump forward in time like a long time. And so it's like an interesting thing because they'll go back and forth with like, well, you see how things are now in present day, but how did they get there? It was an interesting, I liked it because it wrapped up the show.
Right.
Which I appreciate. There's so many shows where the season ends and they're like, what the fuck happened?
Yeah.
But they wrapped it up. But
maybe I'll go back.
The first couple seasons, man.
Yeah, the first two were killer.
Whew.
Yeah, killer.
Let's we've got time for one more story.
Okay.
So do you want to do the New Year's Day one, or do you want to do the slip and slide party?
Let's do New Year's Day.
All right, New Year's Day.
Yeah.
What happened?
So this was something we used to do every year, but one year in particular, it was a bit.
I can't read my writing.
So we used to do this thing called cleansing of the sins.
That's what I wrote down. Sins.
Yeah.
I was like, what did I write there? So cleansing of the sins. Take us through it. What is that?
So we used to do. So I split my time between New York and Vermont.
I was really hoping you'd be like, have you ever heard of Jesus Christ,
Have you not heard of Jesus Christ?
our Lord and Savior?
Hold on, can we hold? No.
So for everyone out there listening, the Holy Good Book. Sorry, I was trying to get this in.
www.lord and sin. No. So we used to do this thing, cleansing of the sins. We were crazy.
How did this start?
I don't remember the origin of it.
Was this in college?
I'd say a little after college.
Okay.
But we'd always go to Vermont for New Year's Eve.
Is Aaron a part of this?
He may not a core
Okay.
player.
Got it.
Squirrel Master was there.
Squirrel, of course. Sorry.
Yeah.
How could I forget
Yeah.
Squirrel Master?
And Sal, shout out Sal.
Sal. Captain Giggles?
Captain
Wiggles?
Wiggles wasn't there.
Okay.
But we came up with this thing where it's like, all right, we got to cleanse the sins. And this house that we used to rent in Vermont used to have a creek behind it. And on New Year's either Eve or day, we'd always like do like a cold plunge
Okay.
in the creek.
Or a baptism, as some would say.
The Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But like one year, it was literally like negative.
I can only imagine. It's fucking Vermont, man. It's cold.
Yeah, one year in particular, it was like negative 10 or something. And it was like, it was New Year's Eve night, late, and we were so drunk. And we're like, we got to do it.
Cleansing of the sins, man.
Cleansing of the sins. And the creek had been frozen over. So literally, I remember like going out there just in my skivvies and like fucking smashing the ice.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Barefoot?
Barefoot.
Oh my God, that could totally fuck up your feet.
Oh yeah, I was cut all up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I fucking.
It's ice.
Yeah, so cleanse the sins. I come back in, legs dripping, but not terrible, but it's
No,
just,
but still, yeah. Did you feel better?
I mean, look at me, I made it here.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't have.
You've got a feature film out now.
Got a feature film.
But let's plug it one more time. Let everyone know where they can find it.
It's Killington. You can find it on Amazon Prime or Vudu, also known as Fandango at Home. I think it's at libraries too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Getting in on that Criterion action.
Yeah, Criterion.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Come
it.
on, man.
Yeah.
So I do movies. I
Yeah.
love movies. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming on, dude.
This
This
is great.
was so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media. BrennanTComedy.com is the website. Check out the one-man show, Ex-Drinking Buddy of Comics. Look at life, near-death, recovery, and redemption. And we'll talk to y'all next week. Boom.
Bam.
Do it for the camera. Like